Greetings. This is Jim Wickens from nfldraftfanatics.com. And this video and podcast is going to be a demonstration of Fanatic mode on the NFL Draft Fanatics mock draft simulator. So if you're new to NFL Draft Fanatics, I'd like to briefly cover how the simulator works. It is a little bit different. That difference will be noticeable in the later rounds. So would definitely like to review a couple of things. So every team at nfldraftfanatics.com has its own player board. So I'm going to go to team needs. And when you go to team needs, and we're going to look at the Denver Broncos because that's the video that we are recording. So we'll scroll down. We will find Denver. And you see the team needs, but on the far right, you see the player list. So the player list is what the simulator uses when Denver is on the clock. So according to how Denver fans have picked players in mock drafts, this is the order of the players. You notice like Kool-Aid McKinstry and Nate Wiggins are close to the top, as are Joe Alt and Amarius Mims. And those players were not there on the default board that was loaded. They're there based upon user behavior. So whenever you mock draft for a team and you pick a player, the player moves up this board. Okay. So you're going to see me do a mock draft for Denver. The players I pick are going to move up this board. If I don't pick a player, they'll move down a little bit. So let's talk about that from the standpoint of doing a mock draft. So we're going to do a 4-round mock. We are going to be picking for Denver. I'm looking for the Broncos logo. Give me a minute. My eyes. There we go. There's Denver. So we're going to go Denver, 4 rounds. And we're going to talk about Fanatic mode right here. So this defaults to be off. I'm flipping it on, and I'm going to set it to 5. So what does that mean? Okay. So we're going to do a 4-round mock. I set that up at the top for Denver. I picked the team. Fanatic mode means every mock will be unique. Okay, so by flipping this on, you're saying that the 5 mocks I do, I don't want to be anything alike. Okay, and by doing mocks that aren't alike, you have a little bit more control over the player board than you realize. So I am going to, Fanatic mode is on, set it to 5. We're going to go ahead and get started. The first mock in Fanatic mode would be like any other mock that you do. The player boards haven't been manipulated. We haven't removed anybody from the player boards or anything like that. So we're going to go through. There were various players picked. And for the most part, that looked moderately normal, other than a Bears fan has made Jaden Daniels high on their board. Okay. So that's about the only thing there that may have surprised me, but the rest of that looked moderately normal. And the end result is this player board for Denver. So a Denver fan has put Penix high on their board. Okay. That's not me or any big board that was loaded to the site. That's a fan put Penix high. I am not going to pick the quarterback for Denver, but I do see Wiggins, and he's 4th overall on their draft card. And I believe the Broncos need a corner. It's their second biggest need. So I am definitely going to take Wiggins there. Okay. And we're doing a 4-round Denver mock. I believe Denver's missing a few picks. I don't know if it's round 2 or round 3, but I think we're going to have to wait for all of round 2 to finish. And then I think Denver has a 3rd-round pick. So it just finished round 2. It's in round 3. Here's Denver's round 3 board. So Denver needs offensive tackle, wide receiver, and look at this. There's an offensive tackle and a wide receiver sitting at the top of their player board. Okay, that's not an accident. Those players are there because fans have picked them into that position. Okay, so the offensive tackles that are left, I happen to like Paul more than Kieran, so I am going to pick Paul. He is currently 56th on their player board. Paul in round 3. So now it's finishing up round 3, And I don't know if Denver has a 4th round pick. So it looks like it's past Denver. So I'm guessing Denver has 2 picks in the first 4 rounds. Oh, okay. We do have a 4th round pick. So at this point, have I picked a wide receiver? Haven't picked a wide receiver. So this is the 4th round wide receiver board. I like Burton in round 4. He's currently 117 on the draft card. Okay, so we're back to round 1. So I picked Wiggins last time. The simulator makes sure he is not available for Denver. So if no other team picked him, he goes the pick before. Denver can't pick Wiggins. So here's their new board. Who do we like? Well, I like Tyrion Arnold in round 1. He's currently 12th on their player board. I am going to pick Arnold. Okay, so now it's going to go through round 2, and we'll have to wait for it to get to round 3. So while it's doing that, anytime you pick a player on this simulator, they will move up the team's draft board. How much will depend upon what round and a lot of other circumstances. And if you want to get out a whiteboard, I can show you some of the math. Okay, so this is Denver round 3. Okay, and Adonai Mitchell round 3, I'm definitely going to make that pick. So easy to find some value, and now we're moving into the next round, the next pick. Okay. Is there an offensive tackle here we like? Maybe not. Guard. Defensive line. Okay, a few good defensive linemen there. So we'll go ahead and grab one. So anytime you pick a player, they move up the board. A player that you skip, so in that case, I think I picked the player I picked, I think was 8th overall on the board. The 7 players ranked above him will move down slightly in value, but whether it was enough to change their rank is a different math problem. Okay, so now we are back to round 1 for Denver. Okay, offensive tackle, edge are not positions I've looked at yet, but if you had a needed offensive tackle and edge, and this was your board, I definitely like Jared Verse if my team needs an edge. So I'm going picking him. Okay, and there will be one other offensive tackle, or excuse me, one other edge that I'm going to pick when I get to my 4th mock. At this point, I'm in the middle of my 3rd unique mock, and the simulator will not let you pick the same player twice. So that's the key with Fanatic mode, which is the purpose of the demonstration. You will not be allowed to pick the same player twice. So if I'm doing 5 mocks, I've got to have a set of players that's unique that I like in each of the mocks. Okay, so a couple of things to observe. Somebody has moved a kicker up Denver's board, and I can assure you that there was no kicker in the top 100 of the board that was loaded to the site. So Mevis got there because a Denver fan picked a kicker. That's the reason that the player is there. Okay, so out of those, we haven't picked a corner in this one. I don't think we have. No, we've gone edge, wide receiver. Denver needs a corner. So I'll go and find one. So every time you pick a player, they move up the board. Now, how much they move up will depend on a lot of things. But let's talk about Adisa Isaac. Okay, the edge out of Penn State. This is Denver's round 1 pick. Okay, I'm picking a player that is currently 165th on their big board. Okay, I'm going to draft him in round 1. He just moved up to the board. He's probably going to be in the top 10 when we look at the draft board at the end of the demonstration. Once I finish the 5th unique mock, which was part of Fanatic mode when I set it, we will look at the Denver player board and see how I changed it. Every mock draft on this site changes the player board. Okay. At this point, I will go offensive tackle. And we are in round 4 here. I'm going to go Byron Murphy. He was 201 on the draft card at the time that I picked him. Okay, we're in the last mock. Okay. So what would Denver do? Again, let's look at wide receiver, offensive tackle. So Mims is there. He's currently the 11th player on their board, and I'm going to pick him. They do need an offensive tackle. Mims would have been the best offensive tackle on the board, according to me. So the entire NFL Draft Fanatics logic is we want the opinion of the fans to decide who gets mock drafted to the team. We don't want it to be the opinion of, is a player number 99 or 105 on a big board. We want it to be the fans are picking the player, so therefore the player should get mocked to that team unless he's taken earlier. That's fundamentally how we designed our simulator. Round 3, out of those players, I definitely like Landon Jackson. They need help on defensive line. So we've gone offensive tackle, defensive line. I think that's any team that drafts line in one round and then line in another, whether it's offense or defense, I always think they have a good draft. My opinion is that good teams tend to invest in the line. Okay, so now we would be looking for Denver wide receiver corner. Ooh, that wide receiver board is a little thin. But round 3, Anais Smith, I do like. There we go. Okay, so we finished that Fanatic mode mock draft. Now let's go to Denver team needs. And we're going to look at where some of the players were that I picked. So we'll find Denver's player board. We go to their player list. And Wiggins was already pretty high. I don't remember if he was 4 and I moved him up to 3 or if he was already 3. Paul is 48th now. Burton is 118. I don't know what he was when I picked him. Now, Arnold was a little bit further down the draft card. He was double digits. Now he's moved up to 5. Verse is currently 4th on their draft card. Okay, Isaac. He's 9th on the draft card. He was 110, 117, something like that at the time I picked him. He moved from there up to number 9 by me picking him in the first round once. That's what we mean by player boards move. That player jumped up the board. If you see Adisa Isaac mock drafted to the Denver Broncos, it was an exact result of this podcast. Okay. Now, if you don't agree that the player should be valued that high, come in and do a Denver mock draft and pick players that are better than Isaac that you want to go in round 1, and you'll see Isaac start to fall down their draft card. Okay. Mims. Okay. So that concludes the demonstration. If you came and joined the podcast late, this was a demonstration of Fanatic mode, which is right here on the simulator. And when you turn that on, it guarantees a unique mock draft. It took me all of 15 minutes to do 5 4-round mocks for Denver. It doesn't take long. Each of those mocks was unique because I had Fanatic mode turned on. If you turn off Fanatic mode, you only get to do one mock draft. And then if you try a second mock draft, there's no guarantee that the second was unique relative to the first. But as soon as you turn Fanatic mode on, you're telling the simulator you're going to do more than one mock, and you don't want those 2 mocks to be anything alike. Thank you very much. My name is Jim Wickens with nfldraftfanatics.com. And you can find me on Twitter at nfldraftfanatic. There is no I in fanatic. Feel free to tag me in any mock draft that you post. If you take the time to tag me, I will be more than happy to take the time to reply with a comment or question. The social media interaction on mock drafts is one of the reasons that we designed the simulator the way that we did. So I look forward to the 2024 draft season. If you have questions, if you have comments, please comment on Twitter. There is more content on the YouTube station on the top 100 offensive linemen, top 100 wide receivers, or I should say wide receivers in the top 100, offensive linemen in the top 100. So feel free to check that content out, and there will be more draft content on the players to come. Thank you very much. This is Jim Wickens from nfldraftfanatics.com.